Shalom. I live in Illinois. I spent most of my life in Illinois. And Illinois is kind of known for corrupt government. It's kind of funny that the new president of the United States, who was elected on an idea of clean government and hope and change, is from the city of Chicago, which has been run by mayors daily for many, many decades. And he is, of course, surrounded by the Resco scandal and so far hasn't been touched by it. But now we have a governor in jail, Ryan, who was convicted as part of the pay-to-play in Illinois, which basically you take bribes and then you can get government contracts, do all kinds of stuff, which resulted in bad truck drivers and a dead family. And now our Senator Durbin wants to grant atonement and pardon to Governor Ryan. Just on the heels of that, many of the top aides to our current governor, Doyovich, are under indictment, and everybody's wondering whether the governor was going to face indictment. And then when Senator Obama became the president-elect, it falls to the current governor of Illinois to appoint a successor. So everybody's speculating of who it's going to be. And now it turns out he's been arrested after being taped for a long time. And one of the charges against him is going to be that he was going to take bribes to fill the Senate seat. And then it turns out one of the leading candidates, name being bandied around the news, Jesse Jackson Jr., a popular congressman from the city of Chicago, is there's speculation that allegedly he was one of the people or somebody in his name who's going to offer up to $1 million for that Senate seat. The whole thing is so disgusting. Of course, it's all alleged, but the whole thing is so disgusting. And what do we think about it? How do we understand it? Well, first of all, it's about money and power, but the money angle is how different is that than the Walmart stampede, which killed somebody so they could save a few bucks on a DVD. Somebody's dead because a crowd of people wanted to save a few bucks on a DVD. So there's obviously a problem there. And this affects a different thing because we're talking about leadership in government and people that make decisions for our lives being bought. So I just want to tell you about a few verses from Deuteronomy which I think we have to keep straight. I just read an article by Michael Kingsley, a popular writer, who just said he's so overwhelmed with how much there is to read on blogs and media and books and newspapers. There's just so much information. Sometimes it's good to just sit back and say, you know what, there's a few books that never go out of style that should be read all the time, and it will just keep us straight. And Deuteronomy is one of those. So first, just a simple verse to remember, where God says, I put before you bracha and klala. I put before you the way of blessing and the way of curse. Bacharta b'chaim, it says later, choose life. So yeah, there's a choice in life between the bracha and the klala, and all of us make mistakes and take the path of klala, of curse, at some points. But we should always remember it's a choice, and we ought to choose the path of bracha. And then it says, interestingly, in Parshat Shoftim, which is the end of chapter 16, starting with verse 18, it says, Shotim v'shotrim titen lecha, you shall appoint magistrates and officials for your tribes. It's talking to Moses. And they shall govern the people with mishpat tzedek, do justice. You shall not judge unfairly, he's telling to the judges or the politicians. You shall show no partiality. You shall not take bribes. For bribes blind the eyes of the discerning and upset the plea of the just. Lo tikach shochad. Shochad is a bribe. Because the bribes blind the eyes of the discerning and upset the plea of the just. And then the very famous phrase, tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. Now one question our commentators ask is, why does the word justice occur twice? Wouldn't it just be simple to say, justice you shall pursue? And there's many different explanations given. One of them is that you shall pursue justice justly. And then in chapter 17, it's a passage anticipating a time when you've got a king. Now, this doesn't happen until the book of Samuel, when the people demand a king, and Samuel thinks it's a betrayal of God, and God says, basically, give them a king. But here's what it says in chapter 17, verse 18 and following. When the king is seated on the throne, he shall have a copy of the teaching, the Torah, this teaching, written for him on a scroll. Let it remain with him, and let him read it in all his life. So, to Michael Kingsley saying there's so much to read, this book you got to read all your life. so he may learn to revere the Lord his God, to observe faithfully every word of this teaching as well as these laws, including the ones I just read, which says don't take any bribes. Thus will he not act haughtily towards his fellows. Isn't it haughty to ask $1 million of somebody so they can buy the Senate seat? Or deviate from the instruction to the right or to the left, to the end that he and his descendants may reign long in the midst of Israel. Well, this governor's not, if he's proven guilty of what he's alleged to have done, he's not going to long reign. You want to reign long? Follow the words of the Torah. And don't take bribes and pursue justice. Now, before that it says, when you enter the land and you decide you want a king, because all the other nations have one, be sure to set as king over yourself one of your own people. Now, moreover, he shall not keep many horses, or send people back to Egypt to add to his horses, since the Lord has warned you must not go back that way. In other words, don't let him get so much money and stuff, pervert his eyes. And he shall not have many wives, lest his heart go astray, nor shall he amass silver or gold to excess. That's the verse right before verse 18. He shall not amass silver or gold to excess. It's a danger when these guys get too rich. Well, somebody who has $1 million to give to buy a Senate seat, and the guy's going to take $1 million maybe to sell the Senate seat. So I think we hear the words of the Torah loud and clear. There's a way in front of us of blessing, of bracha and klala, and to not take any bribes, do justly, because bribes pervert the eyes and cause people to not be treated fairly. The Torah is saying, look, we recognize there are going to have to be people to make decisions for you, magistrates and judges and kings. Today, of course, we don't have kings in the United States, but we have to put all these limits, and especially the main limit is have a Torah by their side, which they read all the time to learn to revere the Lord. Shalom.